Why is this parasite here? Get the hell out! The words hit me like a slap across the face. I stood frozen in the doorway of my own beach house, my weekend bag still hanging from my shoulder, staring at my brother-in-law. His face was twisted with contempt, his finger pointing at me like I was some unwanted intruder. Behind him, I could see his parents, his 2 brothers, and what looked like extended family sprawled across my furniture, drinking from my glasses, their shoes kicked off on my white carpet. My name is Claire, and I'm 32 years old. I work as a marine biologist in Charleston, South Carolina, where I've spent the last decade building a career I'm proud of. The beach house where I was currently being screamed at wasn't just any property. It was mine. I'd bought it 3 years ago with money I'd saved and invested carefully, a reward for years of grueling work and sacrifice. It sat right on the coast near Myrtle Beach, a 2-hour drive from Charleston, and it was my sanctuary. But looking at my brother-in-law's furious face, you'd think I was the one trespassing. "Excuse me?" I managed to say, my voice steady despite the rage building in my chest. "You heard me," he snapped. His name was Kevin, and he'd been married to my older sister Jennifer for 5 years. "We're having a family gathering here. Nobody invited you." I blinked, trying to process what was happening. "Kevin, this is my house. I own it." "Yeah, well, Jennifer said we could use it this weekend," he shot back, his arms crossed over his chest. "So unless you want to ruin everyone's good time, you should leave." I looked past him, searching for my sister. She was standing by the kitchen island, her eyes glued to her phone, refusing to meet my gaze. She knew. She absolutely knew I was planning to come here this weekend because I'd mentioned it to her just 2 days ago during our mother's birthday dinner. She'd smiled and nodded, told me to have a great time, and then apparently handed out keys to Kevin's entire family, like this was some kind of vacation rental. "Jennifer," I called out, my voice cutting through the chatter of Kevin's family. "Can we talk?" She finally looked up, her expression carefully neutral. "Claire, I didn't think you'd actually come. You're always so busy with work." "I told you I was coming. I specifically said I needed this weekend to decompress." She shrugged, a gesture so casual it made my blood boil. "Well, Kevin's family needed a place to stay, and this house just sits empty most of the time. I figured you wouldn't mind." "You figured wrong." Kevin stepped closer, his jaw tight. "Look, we've got 15 people here who drove hours to get to this place. You're one person. Do the math. Just go back to Charleston and come back next weekend." I stared at him, at the audacity dripping from every word. His family was watching now, some looking uncomfortable, others smirking like this was entertaining. Kevin's mother was even shaking her head at me, as if I was the one being unreasonable. Something inside me shifted. I'd spent my entire life being the accommodating one, the sister who didn't make waves, the daughter who kept the peace. I'd loaned Jennifer money when she and Kevin were struggling with their mortgage. I'd babysat their kids countless times without complaint. I'd even helped Kevin's brother move last summer, spending an entire Saturday hauling boxes in 100-degree heat. And this was how they repaid me. I smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the kind of smile that comes when you realize you're done playing nice. "Sure," I said calmly. "I'm leaving." Kevin looked surprised, like he'd expected more of a fight. Good. Finally, some sense. I turned toward the door, then paused. "Just so we're clear, Kevin, you're saying you want me to leave my own property?" "That's exactly what I'm saying." "And Jennifer, you're okay with this?" My sister wouldn't look at me again. "It's just one weekend, Claire. Don't be dramatic." I nodded slowly, my mind already racing through everything I needed to do. "Okay then, enjoy your weekend." I walked out, leaving the door open behind me. As I got into my car, I could hear laughter from inside the house. They thought they'd won. They thought I'd just roll over and accept this humiliation. They had no idea what was coming. I drove exactly 3 minutes down the road before pulling into a gas station parking lot. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from pure adrenaline. I pulled out my phone and started making calls. First to my lawyer, then to my property manager, then to someone else I'd been hoping I wouldn't need to contact. By the time I was done, it was getting dark. I sat in my car, watching the sun sink into the ocean, and allowed myself one moment of doubt. Was I really going to do this? Was I really going to burn every bridge with my sister over a beach house? Then I remembered Kevin's face, the contempt in his voice, the way Jennifer had just stood there and let him humiliate me. Yes, I was absolutely going to do this, and they would regret ever treating me like I didn't matter. Growing up, Jennifer and I had been close, or at least I'd thought we were. She was 3 years older, the firstborn daughter who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. I was the quiet one, the bookish kid who spent more time studying marine life than going to parties. Our parents loved us both, but Jennifer always seemed to shine brighter, to take up more space in every room. I didn't resent it. Not really. I'd carved out my own path, and I was proud of what I'd accomplished. After getting my doctorate in marine biology, I'd landed a position at the South Carolina Aquarium, where I focused on sea turtle conservation. The work was meaningful, the pay was decent, and I'd managed to save enough to buy the beach house outright when a foreclosure opportunity came up 3 years ago. The house had needed work. Lots of it. I'd spent every weekend for 6 months renovating it, painting walls, replacing fixtures, and turning it from a neglected property into something beautiful. Jennifer had visited exactly once during that time, looked around for 10 minutes, and said it was cute. That was it. No offer to help. No recognition of the effort I'd put in. Still, I'd given her a spare key. She was my sister. I'd trusted her. That trust had clearly been misplaced. I checked into a hotel about 20 miles from the beach house, a mid-range chain that was clean and quiet. After settling into the room, I ordered takeout and spread out all my documentation on the bed. Property deed, insurance papers. A copy of the access agreement I'd stupidly signed when Jennifer asked if she could borrow the house, just for emergencies. I'd been too generous, too trusting. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Jennifer. "Why are you being so difficult? It's just one weekend. Kevin's family thinks you're crazy." I stared at the message, my jaw clenching. She had the audacity to make me the villain in this situation. She'd given away access to my property without asking, let her husband scream at me in my own home, and now I was the difficult one? I typed back, "We'll talk about this later." Her response was immediate. "Don't be such a drama queen." I turned off my phone. The next morning, I drove back to Charleston to meet with my lawyer. His name was Gregory, and we'd worked together when I bought the house. He was a calm, methodical man in his 50s, who listened without interrupting as I explained the situation. "So they're currently occupying your property without your permission," he said, taking notes. "Yes. My sister has a key, but I never gave her permission to let other people stay there, especially not for an entire weekend." "And your brother-in-law verbally ordered you to leave? In front of at least 15 witnesses." Gregory leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. "You have several options here. The nuclear option would be to call the police and have them all removed for trespassing. But given that your sister has a key and presumably implied permission to be there, that might get complicated." "What's the other option?" He smiled slightly. "We make them very, very uncomfortable." I leaned forward. "I'm listening." Over the next hour, Gregory laid out a plan that was both elegant and devastating. It would take some coordination, some quick action, and a willingness to follow through completely. When he finished explaining, he looked at me seriously. "Are you sure you want to do this? Once you start down this path, There's no going back. Your relationship with your sister might be permanently damaged. I thought about Jennifer's face, the way she'd refused to defend me, the way she'd shrugged off my feelings like they meant nothing. I thought about Kevin's sneer, his assumption that he could treat me however he wanted, because I'd always been too polite to fight back. I'm sure. Then let's get started. By noon, things were in motion. I'd made the necessary calls, signed the necessary documents, and set everything up exactly as Gregory had instructed. The beauty of it was that everything was perfectly legal, perfectly within my rights as the property owner. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was simply enforcing my property rights in a way that Kevin and Jennifer hadn't anticipated. I drove to a coffee shop near the beach, ordered a large iced coffee, and waited. Gregory had told me it would take a few hours for everything to fall into place. I used the time to think about what came next, about how my family would react, about whether I was making a terrible mistake. My phone, which I'd turned back on, started buzzing with messages. My mother, my father, Jennifer, even Kevin. They were all demanding to know what I was doing, why I was being so unreasonable, why I couldn't just let them have this one weekend. Nobody asked if I was okay. Nobody apologized for what had happened. They just wanted me to back down, to be the accommodating Claire they'd always known. That Claire was gone. At 3 p.m, my phone rang. It was Gregory. "It's done," he said simply. "Everything?" "Everything. They should be getting the news right about now." I thanked him and hung up. Then I sat in my car and waited for the explosion I knew was coming. It took exactly 12 minutes. Jennifer's call came first, her voice shrill with panic. "Claire, what the hell did you do? The power just went out. And the water. There's no water." I kept my voice calm. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb. The utilities are off. Kevin tried to call the power company, and they said the account holder requested a temporary service suspension." "Well, I am the account holder," I said reasonably. "And I did request that. Since I'm not using the property this weekend, I saw no reason to keep paying for utilities that unauthorized guests are using." The silence on the other end was deafening. "Then, you can't do this. We have 15 people here. Kevin's parents are elderly. You're going to leave them without power or water?" "I'm not leaving them anywhere. They're welcome to leave my property anytime they'd like. In fact, that's what Kevin told me to do yesterday, wasn't it? Get the hell out." Well, now they can follow their own advice. This is insane. Mom and Dad are going to hear about this. Good. Make sure to tell them how you gave away access to my property without asking, and how Kevin screamed at me to leave my own house. I'm sure they'll be very interested in that part of the story. Jennifer made a strangled sound and hung up. I sat there, feeling a strange mix of emotions. Part of me felt guilty, felt like I'd gone too far. But a larger part of me felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Powerful. I'd spent so many years being the one who compromised, who bent to keep everyone else happy. For once, I was the one calling the shots. Kevin called next. His voice was pure rage. "You spiteful witch. Do you know what you've done? My mother has a heart condition. She needs to be in a cool environment. Then perhaps you should take her somewhere that has air conditioning. Maybe a hotel. I hear there are several nice ones nearby. This is your fault. You're putting people's health at risk because you're having some kind of tantrum." "No, Kevin. You put people's health at risk when you decided to occupy my property without permission and without ensuring you had proper access to utilities. That's on you, not me. Jennifer's going to fix this. She's calling the power company right now. She can call whoever she wants. The utilities are in my name, the house is in my name, and only I can authorize reconnection. And I won't be doing that as long as you're there. We'll sue you for this." "For what? Exercising my rights as a property owner? Good luck with that. But while we're discussing legal matters, You should know that I've filed a formal trespass notice with the county sheriff. You have until 6 this evening to vacate the property. After that, anyone remaining will be removed by law enforcement." He started to sputter, but I hung up. My parents called together, on speakerphone. I could hear the disappointment in my mother's voice. "Claire, sweetheart, this isn't like you. Can't we all just calm down and work this out?" "There's nothing to work out, Mom. Jennifer gave away access to my property without asking. Kevin ordered me to leave my own home. I'm simply enforcing my property rights." "But it's so extreme," my father said. "Cutting off the power and water? Getting the police involved? Can't you just let them finish the weekend? Would you let strangers stay in your house without your permission? Jennifer isn't a stranger. She's your sister. A sister who clearly doesn't respect me or my property. She had a chance to apologize, to make this right, and instead she called me dramatic. So no, Dad, I'm not backing down." My mother's voice turned pleading. "What about family? What about keeping the peace? What about me? What about the fact that I've been nothing but generous to Jennifer and Kevin, and this is how they treat me? When does someone stand up for me?" Neither of them had an answer for that. At 5:30, I drove back to the beach house. I parked down the street where I could see the driveway but wasn't immediately visible. Cars were loading up, people carrying bags and looking distinctly unhappy. Kevin's father was red-faced and gesturing wildly while talking on his phone. Kevin himself was hauling a cooler to his truck, his expression murderous. Jennifer stood on the porch, her arms wrapped around herself, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Part of me wanted to feel bad for her. We'd grown up together, shared secrets, laughed until we cried. But then I remembered her face yesterday, the way she'd dismissed my feelings, the way she'd chosen Kevin's convenience over my dignity. Sometimes people showed you who they really were, and you had to believe them. At exactly 6, a sheriff's patrol car pulled into the driveway. The deputy got out, spoke briefly with Kevin, and then began ushering people out. There was no drama, no arrests, just a firm insistence that everyone needed to leave immediately. I watched as the last car pulled away, Jennifer in the passenger seat of Kevin's truck, not looking back. The deputy saw my car and walked over. "You the property owner?" "Yes, sir." "They're all gone. You'll want to check the property for any damage, maybe change the locks." "Thank you, I will." He nodded and drove away. I sat there for another 10 minutes, letting the reality sink in. I'd done it. I'd actually gone through with it. My family was furious, my sister probably hated me, and I'd burned bridges I could never rebuild. But as I pulled into my own driveway, as I unlocked my own door and stepped into my own house, I felt something unexpected. Relief. For the first time in years, I'd stood up for myself. And it felt damn good. The house was a disaster. I walked through slowly, documenting everything with my phone camera. Red wine stains on the white living room carpet. Cigarette burns on the deck railing, even though I had a clear no-smoking policy. The kitchen was a wreck of dirty dishes, empty beer bottles, and what looked like someone's failed attempt at cooking shrimp, the shells scattered across my granite countertops. But it was the upstairs that made my blood boil. Someone had been in my bedroom, in my private space. The bed was unmade, sheets that I'd carefully washed and pressed now twisted and stained. My closet door hung open, and I could see that someone had gone through my things. A jewelry box I kept on my dresser was open, and I immediately checked for my grandmother's pearl necklace. It was gone. I stood there, staring at the empty velvet space where it should have been, and felt something crack inside me. That necklace was the only thing I had left from my grandmother, the woman who'd actually understood me, who'd encouraged my love of science when everyone else thought it was weird. She'd given it to me on her deathbed, pressed it into my hand and told me to stay curious, stay strong. And now it was gone. I called Jennifer immediately. She answered on the fourth ring, her voice wary. What now, Claire? My grandmother's pearl necklace is missing. Someone stole it. That's ridiculous. Nobody stole anything. It was in my jewelry box yesterday, and now it's gone. Who was in my bedroom? I don't know. Maybe you misplaced it. My laugh was bitter. Right, I misplaced a necklace that never leaves my dresser. Jennifer, I'm filing a police report. You wouldn't dare. Watch me. Either that necklace reappears by tomorrow morning, or I'm pressing charges against everyone who was in this house. I have names. I have photos. I will make this as public and as ugly as necessary. She was quiet for a moment. Then, you've changed, Claire. You used to be nice. No, Jennifer. I used to be a doormat. There's a difference. I hung up and immediately called the non-emergency police line. An officer arrived within the hour. A woman named Deputy Walsh, who took my statement and photographed the damage. She was professional, sympathetic, and when I mentioned the missing necklace, her expression hardened. Do you have photos of it? Insurance documentation? I have both, and I have a list of everyone who was in the house. Good. We'll need all of that. I'll be honest with you, though. Proving who specifically took it will be difficult unless someone confesses or we find it in their possession. I understand. After she left, I spent 3 hours cleaning, scrubbing wine stains, washing sheets, disinfecting surfaces that strangers had touched. With every swipe of the sponge, my anger grew. This wasn't just about a weekend anymore. This was about disrespect so profound that it felt personal, calculated. My phone buzzed constantly. Jennifer. Kevin. My mother. Even Kevin's mother apparently had gotten my number and left a voicemail about how I'd ruined their family gathering and should be ashamed of myself. I listened to each message once, then deleted them. Around midnight, as I was finally finishing up, my phone rang with an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Claire, it's Melissa. Melissa, Kevin's younger sister. We'd actually gotten along during the few times we'd met, though I hadn't seen her in over a year. Melissa, hi. Look, I heard about what happened this weekend, and I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. What Kevin did was completely out of line. I sank onto the couch, suddenly exhausted. Thank you. That means a lot. He's always been like this, you know, entitled. My parents spoiled him rotten, and Jennifer just enables it. I wasn't at the beach house, thank God, but my mom called me ranting about you. And when I actually got the full story, I was disgusted. Did you know about the necklace? She paused. What necklace? I explained about my grandmother's pearls. Melissa swore softly. Claire, I hate to tell you this, but Kevin's been having money problems. Bad ones. He made some investments that went south, and he's been scrambling to cover losses. Jennifer doesn't even know how bad it is. My stomach dropped. You think he took it? I don't know, but he's desperate enough that I wouldn't put it past him. He's been trying to borrow money from everyone in the family. After we hung up, I sat in the dark, processing this information. Kevin was broke. That explained why Jennifer had been pushing me to lend them money again last month, a request I'd declined after never being paid back from the previous loan. It explained why they'd been so eager to use my beach house instead of renting their own place. But stealing from me? That was a line I'd never imagined they'd cross. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and twice as many text messages. Most were from family members demanding I drop the police report, saying I was tearing the family apart, that I needed to forgive and forget. Not one person apologized for what had been done to me. I was drinking coffee on the deck, watching the sunrise over the ocean, when a car pulled into the driveway. Jennifer. She got out slowly, looking like she hadn't slept. We need to talk, she called up to me. I didn't move. So talk. She climbed the deck stairs, and I could see she'd been crying. Her eyes were red and puffy, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. This was the sister I'd grown up with, the one I'd shared a room with until I left for college, the one who'd braided my hair and taught me how to apply eyeliner, the one who'd thrown all of that away for her husband's convenience. "I'm sorry," she said, the words sounding forced. "I should have asked before giving Kevin the keys. I should have stood up for you when he told you to leave." "Yes, you should have. But Claire, you've taken this too far. The police? Really? You're going to destroy Kevin over a necklace? A necklace that belonged to our grandmother. That was all I had left of her. It's just jewelry. It can be replaced." "No, Jennifer, it can't. And the fact that you don't understand that tells me everything I need to know about where we stand." She stepped closer, her expression shifting to something harder. "If you pursue this, if you press charges, Kevin could lose his job. He works for the city. A theft charge would ruin him. Then he shouldn't have stolen from me. You don't even know if he took it. It could have been anyone. Then tell him to prove his innocence. Let him turn out his pockets, his car, his house. If he has nothing to hide, he should have no problem with that." Jennifer's face flushed. "You're being unreasonable." "I'm being unreasonable? I'm not the one who stole. I'm not the one who violated someone's trust and home. That was your husband, Jennifer. That was you, by enabling him." "Fine," she spat. "Fine. You want to play hardball? Let's play. Mom and Dad are selling their lake house. They were going to leave it to both of us when they died. But guess what? They're changing their will. Everything goes to me now. You're cut out completely." The words should have hurt. A month ago, they would have devastated me. But standing there, looking at my sister's twisted expression, I felt nothing but a cold clarity. If that's what they want to do, that's their choice. But Jennifer, understand this. I'm done. I'm done being the backup plan, the reliable one, the one who gets walked all over because I'm too nice to fight back. You made your choice. Now live with it. She stared at me for a long moment, then turned and walked away. I watched her drive off, and I didn't cry. I didn't feel sad. I just felt free. 3 days after Jennifer's visit, I got a call from Deputy Walsh. "Miss Claire, we've had a development in your case. Can you come down to the station?" I drove there immediately, my heart pounding. Deputy Walsh met me in a small conference room, and she wasn't alone. A detective sat across from her, a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a firm handshake. "I'm Detective Barnes. I understand you reported a theft?" "Yes. My grandmother's pearl necklace." He opened a folder. "We received an interesting call yesterday. Anonymous tip saying we should check a pawn shop in North Charleston. We followed up and we found your necklace." I gasped. "You found it?" "We did. The pawn shop owner provided us with security footage and the name of the person who pawned it." He slid a photograph across the table. It was Kevin. I stared at the image, at my brother-in-law's face caught clearly on camera as he handed over my grandmother's necklace for cash. The timestamp showed it was from Saturday evening, just hours after he'd left my beach house. "That's him," I said, my voice hollow. "That's my brother-in-law." Detective Barnes nodded. "We've issued a warrant for his arrest. Grand larceny, given the necklace's appraised value of $4,000. He'll be picked up within the next 24 hours. $4,000. I'd had it appraised 2 years ago for insurance purposes, never imagining I'd need that information for something like this. What happens now? Now we build a case. The pawn shop footage is strong evidence, and we have your testimony about who had access to the property. If he doesn't have a solid explanation for how he came to possess your necklace, this will likely go to trial." I left the station feeling numb. This was really happening. Kevin was going to be arrested. My family was going to implode. And somehow, I'd become the villain in all of this. the one who couldn't just let things go.